Sat on a beach in the south of France at a place called Miramar, which is just to the west of Cannes. And I was thinking about how databases work. All right, so you're now thinking, if anybody actually watches this is a very sad person. And I was thinking that, we all talking about vertical markets, everybody was focused on vertical markets. And at that stage, and this is sort of 83, 84, people were saying, oh, well, vertical markets, and then directory products used to fall into vertical markets. And so unless you actually knew what you were looking for, it was very hard to find it. And I suddenly came up with this idea that actually if you created an electronic horizontal marketplace, all right, and used keywords, it would be easier to find things. We set up a business called Company Line, which basically created a database of businesses in the UK. We franchised that to like 33 countries around the world. We built a system in 1987 with one of the online providers called Datastar, which was probably the earliest e-commerce system that was around. Looking back, you can call things because the names weren't invented there. But we had the ability for somebody to call into our call center and say, I'm looking for some left-hand widgets, and effectively then to publish the fact that that company was looking for left-hand widgets online via Datastar in 1987. And if you had then access to Datastar's network, you could go online and look at these effective business opportunities in real time. Multimedia Investments was founded in 1992. We got clobbered by the recession in 1990. Property prices, commercial property prices were severely down, and effectively the Company Line was sold to the franchise network. I went and did some consultancy work. I think people now are using things called electronic book readers. I was involved in the first stage of that technology back then when we were using CD-ROMs, and started to look at electronic publishing and how electronic publishing would go across multiple platforms. Then saw at the Hammersmith Novotel in March of 1993 at an electronic publishing fair, a load of guys in anoraks in a small side room. You're wondering, Novotel side room and all the rest of it, what's coming next, looking at computers and looking at the Mosaic browser. And sometimes you have these moments of, I've been there before. And what the Mosaic browser was the answer to the issues that we'd had when we built the online system in 1987, when we had a textual-based system running to a static database, and you had to be very specific in your text searching to get an answer back, which came back as free text. What Mosaic was presenting was a graphical user interface which everybody could use, and if it was applied to applications, would deliver information back. And so I got quite excited by that. Multimedia Investments have been set up to look at digital convergence, and so we effectively invested in a leased line into Canterbury University. At about the same time, I got the domain business.co.uk, which is interesting because of the title of your magazine. And we set up the commercial internet in the Channel Islands. We basically had an investment in a company called Jersey Card. Jersey Card had done electronic cash purse trials, a bit like Mondex and a bit like the pay and wave stuff that's being used today. And that company had a relationship with Barclays Bank and provided retail point of sale terminals to businesses in Jersey and Guernsey. Concurrently with what we were doing, Barclays was setting up a unit called the Emerging Markets Unit to try and look at new technology. And we agreed with Barclays Bank in January of 1995 to build this concept called Barclays Square, which we designed on the back of a serviette in a restaurant in Jersey, which would become the world's first bank-endorsed e-commerce application. We had the internet services business. We started to really understand the opportunity behind WorldPay. We sold the internet service businesses. By this time we were running NatWest.com, we were running stuff for the Mirror, we were running stuff for Disney and various other people. So we sold that business off as an ISP business, took the money, invested it completely into WorldPay, and we sort of felt that what was going to happen with the internet was it was going to change, and it was going to rely and become a voice network. At the end of the day, it's built on a telephony network. It's not like there's a network and another network. They are actually pretty much running over themselves. And I got quite fascinated by that because I thought, well, that's quite interesting, because at the moment we're sort of doing everything on the internet, which actually is relatively unnatural because most people don't type and most people can't spell. And so trying to remember domain names and all the rest of it is really relatively unnatural. And if we could replace that and change things using voice, which is the natural way we communicate, that seemed to make a whole lot more sense. And so we started a project actually in WorldPay in 2001 looking at how voice was going to impact on then e-commerce. If today you go onto a website and you have an e-commerce account, a VoicePay e-commerce account, all you do, you go to the web store, fill in your shopping basket, click VoicePay to pay, and enter either your email or your mobile number, whatever you choose, whatever you set up. And your phone rings, and it says, please tell us your name. So I'd say Nick Ogden. It will then say, you're shopping at Fred's shop and you're about to spend £45. So it immediately takes out any phishing likelihood between the shop that you're on and the transaction that you're doing, because we've triangulated the two. That shop has to have a relationship with us for you to receive a telephone call. All right? We then ask you to sign for the transaction that you're making, and you say voice signature. That's it. You know, I travel a lot. I've sort of, you know, the million mile a year flying club thing. And when I go to a new city, which is now rarer, unfortunately, than it used to be, I always try to arrive a little bit earlier, go and find a park bench, sit and just, you know, get the atmosphere. There's a great book written by Desmond Morris called Man Watching, which I think is out of print now, but it was all about interacting with people. And I think in business, that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day. It's how you get on with people, you know, be that the staff, the team that make the business work, or the customers, which are obviously critical to the success of your business.